So there are pros and cons, but over a period of time what we have seen is industry has moved from product based to service based. Earlier only softwares were provided as service, but now even hardware is going to be provided as a service. So data centers which are managed by large organizations, let's say for example Microsoft manages all Azure data centers, Amazon manages all AWS data centers, Google manages so many data centers. I mean, every organization now who is under the category of service provider infrastructure is giving us hardware as a service. But how is service provided? Service is always provided as per a contract. You are using my service actually. When I'm teaching you people, it's actually a service which I'm providing to you, where you have paid certain fees for this teaching, and under that fees these are the topics I'm going to teach you, and we have to abide by certain rules as we are communicating with each other. Just because you have paid fees, it does not mean that you start asking me questions which are not relevant to Azure. You cannot say, Sandeep, please clarify my doubt which is on SAP. It is not there in our agreement. So services are driven by certain agreements, certain understanding between the service provider and the service consumer. Whereas product, you completely own it, and after you own, you do whatever you like with it. Nobody cares for it. And there are situations where nowadays we take service, and after we take service, we are provided with, we take product and then we are provided with a service for that particular product. I buy a washing machine and I also buy a 1-year contract for the washing machine service. I buy a TV, I buy a 1-year contract for, or 2 years contract or 3 years contract for servicing of TV. So combinations is also done in many cases. But if you look at, there are, again, I'm repeating this point, there are pros and cons of both. Now, I can either have a garden maintained in my own house. I plant all the equipments for my children in my own house, or alternatively, I take the benefit of my society garden. Now, what is the basic difference between them? If I have to own the garden, it is going to be private to me, so highly secured. But at the same time, the cost is going to be very high, because my children may not be playing 24/7. But if there is a society garden, there is a very good chance that people from various houses in the society want to play in that garden at the probably same time or different time, and garden facilitates that feature. Sharing. So things now are moving from private infrastructure to public infrastructure. Public infrastructure gives us the advantage of low cost. But in past, there has been always a concern about security. How secure is public infrastructure? Now, because of these giants, Microsoft, AWS, Google, what they have done is they have ensured that so many protocols are implemented on these public infrastructure that you can actually today trust them, that their infrastructure actually is more secure than our own infrastructure. The kind of security layers which they have constructed, whether it is physical security or whether it is digital security, today they have constructed so many layers that the infrastructure which is in public is considered to be much safe than the infrastructure which I have to manage within my on-premise. And that is the reason majorly why people have embraced cloud computing, public cloud computing to be more precise. So what is that a cloud computing provider is going to give us? Is going to give us power. The power will be in the form of virtual machines, which can be either Windows or Linux virtual machines. They are going to provide us huge amount of storage, almost indefinite amount of storage. They are going to, in many cases, provide us ready-made applications. We just need to use them, just connect them and start using them. They will take care of the complete networking, where we are going to create just our network, virtual network, instead of physical network, it will be a virtual network. And the most beautiful aspect, to optimally use all these things, they are also going to provide analytic tools through which we can actually see how is the application performing, what are the loopholes, where can we tap it, how we can increase the performance, how we can decrease the cost. Lot of analytics tools are also provided to. So all these things are now provided as a service. Very important thing. All these things are provided as a service to us. In other words, Microsoft, AWS, Google are optimizing their data centers on a daily basis. They are adding more and more infrastructure. They are adding more and more services so that we, the developers, we, the administrators in various other organizations, don't have to do anything. We can simply leverage those facilities. Now, what is the difference between a developed city and underdeveloped city? In a developed city, we are going to find more services offered to the citizens. An underdeveloped city would not have so many facilities. Like in simple terms, if I take again garden, instead of society garden, we might have public gardens. A developed city would have many public gardens which are easily accessible. The transport medium would be easily available. The roads would be properly constructed. So that is what Microsoft, Azure or AWS by Amazon or Google are doing today. They are optimizing their data centers. They are constructing layers. They are making sure that it is pretty safe. Trust is being built by the various organizations. Cost is being reduced. All these are benefits which these people are showing us, and that is the reason organizations are migrating from their on-premise infrastructure to cloud. Cloud platform hides the complexity. Yes, if I have to make use of public garden, I don't have to worry about how was that public garden constructed, what was the infrastructure used for building that garden, how was the lawn built up, how were the playing equipments built up. I mean, I don't have to. I just go there, buy a ticket probably of 50 rupees or something, and then start using it for the time I'm interested in. Implies we don't have to know anything in background about the complexity of maintaining the data centers. They are all taken care by the giants, the service providers. We just need to pay and use, and only pay for the amount of time we may want to use. Or if we are building applications as a developer, we would want to make use of that infrastructure through the APIs. They are going to provide us application programming interface, some kind of API. That API is what we use in our application while writing code. Can be in C#, can be in Java, can be in Python, any of these languages. And then these APIs will connect to the appropriate service which is in the service provider infrastructure and make use of it. So complete complexity is hidden from us. We don't have to take care of upgrading. They will take care of upgrading. We don't have to worry about patching. They have to take care of the patching. So all these features which otherwise we have to do in our own on-premise, we are now given the benefit of becoming ready-made. And yes, these are all on-demand services. You can always avail it from anywhere at any time and from any place. That is what is cloud computing all about. And I already said, from the traditional hosting, the organization, the software company has to deal with licensing cost. Today I buy one product. Tomorrow that product new version might have come. But because it is a product, I am not automatically upgraded to the new version. I'll have to buy the new license. Or the protection of data I have to take care of. Frequent upgrades to latest technologies I have to take care of. Maintenance and upgradation of hardware I have to take care of. Remember, in every large organization, the lifetime of the hardware is defined. You might have a hardware which probably is of 3 years, or some organizations might extend it for 5 years. Even if something is not going wrong, they just make the hardware obsolete. They replace it because they cannot take risk. So there is a lifetime for the hardware. They never use it till the end of the hardware. They don't wait for the hardware to crash. So even if the hardware has to be replaced after some time, there is a cost. See, major problem comes in people when they use public infrastructure, they compare cost, and they only compare cost. If I buy a PC at home, let's say it was going to cost me 50,000 rupees, and if I use the public infrastructure, how much am I paying per annum? Probably I might be paying something like 20,000 rupees. Let us assume for a while. So if I see 3 years cost, the PC at home looks cheaper. But problem is we tend to ignore the rest of the cost. We ignore the cost for power. We ignore the cost for the space that PC is going to take or the infrastructure is going to take. We ignore the cost of UPS backup which has to be provided. We ignore the cost of somebody who has to maintain that particular hardware. So at any point of time, it has today become very clear that outsourcing infrastructure using public cloud in long run is much cheaper when compared to having a infrastructure managed by our own organization within its own premise. If you are adapting cloud computing, you don't even need your people to come to your office. They can just work from wherever they are because the public internet is accessible from everywhere. The data centers provided by the cloud service providers are accessible everywhere and at any time. So startups are going to get very big benefit without even any investment on any of the infrastructure except for salaries and the basic computing power laptops. They don't have to do anything investment and they can start with all the benefits what they are going to get otherwise in a pre-built legacy organization. So this is one of the major reasons why cloud computing over a period of time has become